Welcome to the Orange Flag Podcast. If you're just learning about sports cars, hello and welcome. I'm Aries.
I'm Austin.
I'm Nicole. And seems like there's a lot of people kind of discovering sports cars, specifically IMSA, for the first time in the past 7 days or so. So we figured that it might be nice to just do a little primer on IMSA. This is going to be a very, surface level explainer. So to a lot of our regular listeners, this is probably going to be stuff you really already know. But if there's kind of deeper conversations you'd like us to get into, let us know that, because that's something we would like to do. We're obviously going to a WEC race and an IMSA race before the end of this year, so we're totally willing to talk more about sports cars. But I guess, as far as what IMSA is, it's America's premier top level of sports car racing, and there's 4 classes in it: GTP, LMP2, GTD Pro, and GTD. And each of them have their own little quirks about them, their own little unique things that make them different than each other. So GTP is considered like the quote-unquote highest level. That is, where's one of my cars? This is a WEC car, not an IMSA car, but it's your high-level prototypes. They're LMDH cars. There's also one on my coffee. They're driven by all professional drivers. All highest level of drivers, platinums, golds, fully professional drivers.
Yeah, it's usually where the manufacturer backing usually goes. It's usually where most of their sports car budget is. If the manufacturer is obviously involved in this class, that's where most of its budget is very likely going to go.
And most of its drivers. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing about sports car racing is teams, or brands more so than teams, brands being Porsche, General Motors, Toyota, things like that, they're a brand of cars, cars you're going to see out on the street. They will have a stable of sports car drivers. The majority of those drivers, if they have a, GTP program, are going to be there. Their highest level drivers, their, most acclaimed drivers are going to be in their GTP program. It's pretty rare to see an absolute top level driver outside of GTP. There's a couple notable examples in LMP2 though. Because LMP2 has a Pro-Am setup, so you've got your high-level gold, platinum drivers, but then you also are going to have your gentleman drivers, your, businessmen that like racing. So, I said notable examples. Dane Cameron, who is IMSA GTP champion, races in LMP2 this year. Seb Bourdais, who is a race winner in IMSA GTP, is racing in LMP2 this year. So it's not that LMP2 is lesser, it's that it's different. So LMP2, let's be real. People that are getting into IMSA in the past week are getting into it because Logan Sargeant was announced with an LMP2 seat. He is far from the only former Formula One driver racing in LMP2. Logan's obviously a talented driver, but I think that you'd be lying to yourself if you're going to think, oh, he's going to come in and wipe the table with everyone else, because it's not just about him. And that's the thing with Pro-Am, is, nothing against Seb Bourdais' teammate at Tower, but he's not as strong of a driver as Seb. And Seb Bourdais is a former Formula One driver. He was part of Red Bull's program way back. And, you know, he can drive an amazing stint. And if his teammate doesn't do as well as he was, and for instance, another bronze driver is better, you have someone like PJ Hyatt out there who is way too good for a bronze. And Oz, I know LMP2 is like your bread and butter, so
Yeah, I was
It's my
anything
baby.
else you want to say about LMP2 that, you know, people should know about the class?
For me, it's not even just like Formula One drivers, like former Formula One drivers with like experience and stuff like that. You have names like Fittipaldi, who you could group into that too, I guess, in ways. But like you have other recognizable names in LMP2 that don't have Formula One experience, that maybe have IndyCar experience or other sports car experience within it as well. So just because you have a name like Logan Sargeant coming in, there's other drivers that are also in this class that are very good high class drivers.
And then GTD Pro is cars that, you know, so picture a Porsche 911, because I think that's probably one of the easiest cars to picture. The Porsche GTD Pro cars pretty much look like that. Now, there's things internally that are different, but you know, you can still look at it and say, oh, that's a 911. You can't look at a 963, and which is Porsche's GTP car, and say, oh, that's clearly a Porsche, if you didn't know that from it being a race car. The GTD cars really are very closely aligned to car. And GTD Pro is other professional drivers. It's a full lineup of fully professional, generally factory aligned drivers. They work for a brand like the GTP drivers do.
Yeah, it's as I usually like to say, if you're not directly involved in GTP, or if your team is not involved in GTP, but it's a very high profile GT team and it has manufacturer backing, that's where the rest of the manufacturer backing is going to go. So that's, you have an IMSA, like you have the Pratt and Miller Corvette team, for instance. It's stacked with talent, or even AO Racing, which is technically like a private team, but they have factory backing and factory drivers in that car. So, hi, Lauren.
Every driver that drives for AO is a Porsche factory driver. And then GTD is the same concept as GTD Pro, but it is Pro-Am the way that LMP2 is. So, again, that's going to have professional drivers and gentleman drivers included.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the thing I like about Pro-Am is it sort of opens. Strategy in sports cars is usually pretty full of variables, but then when you have to consider that you obviously have like sometimes a very high difference in performance between your top driver and your businessman, your dentist, your gentleman driver. You, if you know, you know. Then obviously you need to think, who do I want to do the start? Do I want my stronger driver to be out there in the beginning, or do I want my bronze driver to sort of just, rack up the minimum amount of time they need to do before, okay, you're done for the day, and now I let my pro drivers take over for the rest of the race. It's interesting. It's it's something I'd never really paid a lot of attention to until a couple of years back. So it's an interesting element that I feel like a lot of people are gonna, if you're new to this, you're gonna have to look at who's driving and be like, oh, my favorite driver's car is not doing so well. But sometimes it's because you are bronze and most of the people driving in your class are professionals, and that happens.
And then we've been throwing around like Pro-Am and these different colors of grades, and we didn't really explain that before we started throwing those around. So
Yeah.
there's 4 grades that drivers can have as a license. Platinum is the highest level. Presumably Logan just hasn't put in his paperwork to get his platinum license, because if you've recently held a super license, you're automatically eligible for platinum. So I have a feeling that's something that between now and Petit Le Mans will probably happen. I don't know that he'll be able to get that done in time for the Battle on the Bricks, but
Yeah.
most of your GTP drivers are platinum. Some are gold. Nico Pino's a silver.
He's a rare one.
He is a really rare one. But yeah, that's your like highest level of professional drivers. They're the ones that are getting overall wins in races. And then the next level from that is what Logan was announced to have, which is a gold license. That is just a standard professional driver who makes a living being a racing driver. That there are championships, races, etc. that you need to win to get a platinum license or to have held a super license. So a lot of drivers are gold rated drivers. And then silver, it's sort of an in between, and it also differs here versus in other parts of the world. Here, which is what matters because we're talking about IMSA, a silver driver is sort of an in between. They're a professional driver, but they might also still have a real job. They could have factory backing. They could be, like Connor Zilic has a silver license.
Yeah.
Tom Sargent has a silver license. Like we said,
No relation.
Nico Pino has a silver license. Like, these are professional drivers that are competing for pretty big, well-known teams, have affiliations with brands, but honestly, for them, it's kind of as a result of age and experience, they're still silver rated. All 3 of them are probably going to end up gold rated next year or the year after. And then bronze is where it honestly gets confusing, because they are what are referred to as gentleman drivers. They are businessmen of some sort. They race as a side gig, usually, but a lot of them train and act and do everything as if they were a professional racing driver. A lot of them are, either in some sort of tech or startup field or in cars. Like, so they have the ability to do all the same training that the full-on professional drivers do. These aren't just like old rich guys who show up and say, "Hey, I'd like to drive." Generally, they fund or sometimes outright own the team. Like PJ Hyatt is a fantastic example. If you've seen Spike the Dragon, the purple dragon car, he is the owner and driver in that car and owns that team, AO Racing. He technically is a businessman. He started a bunch of tech firms, but he trains and does everything the same as his drivers do. He is pretty much a professional driver.
PJ is also just like, when it comes to a lot of things, is like an exception in ways. So
Yeah.
Yeah. All the stock of bronzes, though, sometimes this needs to be mentioned because it's a bit of a running gag, at least on our little side of motorsports Twitter. Sometimes they, how can we say it, get in a bit of a tough situation with the law, and sometimes they have committed financial crimes and end up paying the price for it. So yeah, it's just a random bronze activities. Be a bronze, commit tax fraud.
Yeah, if you're a bronze, you're either, potentially committing tax fraud or you might be a dentist.
or your PJ.
Or your PJ. And then one thing, if you've never watched sports car racing before, all of these cars are on the track at the same time. That's why it's considered multi-class racing. So it's not like NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, where you've got one type of car, from different teams, but one type of car on the track at the same time. You're going to have your super high-end prototypes going past your car that looks like a road car. So that creates a whole bunch of strategy and a whole bunch of drama as well. And then we talked about sort of how there are teammates in the car. Again, unlike NASCAR, IndyCar, F1, it's not just one driver, one car. Each car has, depending on the race, anywhere from 2 to 4 drivers in the car. And each driver has a specific amount of time they have to be in the car. So, like, you are guaranteed to see your driver race if you go to a race where his car is entered. So, like, if you go to Battle on the Bricks because you want to see Logan race, you will see Logan race. There's not like there's another guy. What if Logan doesn't get to race? No, Logan will get to race. He has a minimum drive time he has to do.
Yeah.
And for shorter races, which that's actually not a super short race, but for shorter races, it is usually 2 drivers. But for the Rolex 24, Daytona 24, it can be up to 4 drivers.
Yeah.
Daytona is actually unique. I know we're obviously focusing on IMSA, but this is just a little more of a global take on the whole thing. It's the only sort of major prototype race to still allow 4 drivers in the top class prototypes because of, some say it's because of the long winter night, but because it's longer than when other 24-hour races usually happen, because they happen in northern hemisphere summer, so the night's obviously shorter. But I think it's just a little side note. I think it's a nice way of potentially allowing somebody who does not compete in that sort of racing regularly to okay, turn up and have a go. So it's good.
Yeah. There's sprint rounds and then what we would call the like endurance cup, where for a lot of the endurance cup races you will sometimes see the cars have like 3 people in those cars for the longer races. Daytona is kind of that iffy one where some cars have 3, some have 4. Some cars for endurance rounds will stick with 2, but that is times where you will sometimes see teams have an endurance driver for those longer rounds.
And that's where it also gets confusing, because what IMSA defines as endurance and what the drivers and the teams define as endurance are 2 different things. So there are races that are part of the Endurance Cup, which are longer races, but only 3 of those are what the teams generally deem as endurance and will run 3 drivers. Like for Petit Le Mans and the 12 Hours of Sebring, they always will run 3 drivers. And then for Daytona, like we said, it could be 3, it could be 4. But other endurance races, like for instance, the one that's going to be at Indianapolis, Battle in the Bricks, that is an endurance cup round. Most cars are just going to run 2 drivers.
Yeah. You'll see a few run 3, but most are going to stick with 2.
Yeah.
So, IMSA races on road courses and street courses. There are no NASCAR, IndyCar type, like, full ovals. They do use the oval banking at Daytona, which is really cool.
That's fun.
But they don't have full-on oval races like NASCAR and IndyCar do.
That would be chaos if they did.
I mean, the cars can do it. They run most of the oval.
Yeah.
So, like, they could do it. That would actually be really cool.
I'm just saying, somebody get on that.
I bet it would, like, be really interesting to see setup-wise, but I feel like it would be boring after the first year, because, like, I'm thinking about what Kevin said when we talked to him about what makes Daytona weird, which was the fact that you need the car to be agile enough for the infield part, but also, like, slippery enough, essentially, for the banked oval.
Yeah.
So I feel like the first year would be wild, and then after that, everyone would figure it out.
Oh yeah. I just want it as, like, a one-off. Like, one
Alternate.
time.
Do 1 year on the oval, 1 year using the road course.
Yeah,
IMSA,
I'm down with that.
hire us. We have ideas.
We have ideas.
You know what? I feel like design your own IMSA schedule should be part of our winter break activities.
And then that kind of brings us to possibly the most confusing part about figuring out what race to go to if you're new to IMSA. Not every class does every race.
This whole thing about not every class running everywhere is, simply put, usually because of available paddock space. You try to picture 50 cars split among 4 classes trying to navigate around the Detroit street course. Good luck.
No, I want that though.
Yeah, that would be awesome. GTP does not do Mosport or VIR. VIR is actually this coming weekend, so if you want to see the GT cars racing, that would be a great race to watch. IMSA in the US is available on Peacock, so if you still have your Peacock subscription from IndyCar last year, it'll be on there. And then LMP2 only does Daytona, Sebring, Watkins Glen, Mosport, Road America, Indy, and Petit. So they run a very limited schedule.
Yeah, it's like when they were organizing it, they went, yeah, LMP2 does the Endurance Cup, and then they randomly do Road America because it's a huge racetrack.
Because it's a great track.
Yeah, and then they are gonna headline our trip north of the border, because who decided to take GTP out of the billing for Canada?
Well, I didn't
know.
decide that. But it's very me coded for, LMP2 to be the title for the Canadian race.
Yeah.
To bring up Kevin's interview again, he did say that the reason that he thinks that GTP doesn't do VIR is because it would be too dangerous. Basically, that it would just be too fast in the GTP cars. Everybody go and listen to our Kevin Estra and Rexy interviews episode. If you want to know what we're talking about with this. And then, GTD Pro doesn't do Long Beach. That's just specifically for GTD. So basically, if you like a specific car or driver, like whether it's Logan Sargeant or, like, in my case, I like Kevin Estra. Obviously, I've brought him up a bunch. He only does 3 races a year. So, like, when I went to Detroit, he wasn't there. His other 2 teammates in his car were there. The car he normally drives was there, but he doesn't do that race. He only does 3 races. So, like, if I didn't know and I went there expecting to see him because he was in that car at Daytona when I went, I would have been really disappointed in that. So, make sure you check that the car or the driver that you're supporting is doing the race before you book your trip for next year.
And one thing to
Yeah.
keep an eye out, for is sometimes even if that car, the class that specific car runs the whole season is not going to be at that event. Sometimes the teams are like, obviously it's not just them wanting to do it, but obviously they are able. Sometimes they're able to do it in a different class. In case of the GT teams, for instance, they said because it's the same type of car. The only difference is the driver rating. So you can sometimes field that car in the other GTD class with a slightly different driver lineup. So it could happen, and you could still like be lucky and catch that specific team racing where you're going. Not always
Yeah.
happens
And
though.
one
Yeah.
thing, like for most sport, is you'll see GTP drivers going and racing in LMP2 because GTP does not race there. So that's like a really cool opportunity sometimes to see guys racing in a car they don't normally race in.
Yeah. And there's also another factor to consider in that there are some cars that just don't do every race that they could do in their class. There are part-time entries as well. So that is another thing to consider, that a car you like may not necessarily do every single race that it could do as well.
I'd say that if you're very specifically wanting to see as much as you can, the what we would call endurance races are your best option. Not the Endurance Cup, but Daytona, Sebring, and Petite. Those are going to be very long races. Daytona is 24 hours, Sebring is 12 hours, and Petite Le Mans is 10 hours. They are a effort to go to. Especially for Petite and Sebring, you're camping. You're not, staying in a hotel. It's not super. Daytona has lots of hotels.
Yes.
There lots of Airbnbs. It's very built up, but especially for Petite Le Mans, I mean, I've seen a lot of people online talking about, I want to go to Petite Le Mans. I want to go to Petite Le Mans. Be aware that just because it's called Road Atlanta, it's nowhere near Atlanta. It is
Nope.
an hour outside Atlanta in a little town called Brazelton, Georgia, and there's not much there. There's also not a ton at the track as far as food, as far as facilities. There are restrooms, there are showers. I camped last year. It was fine. I had no issues with camping. But definitely bring stuff with you. Bring food, bring snacks, because there's not a ton of options there. I know that Indy is pretty soon, but if you are a Logan fan that wants to see him race this year, Indy is going to be a lot more like what you're expecting out of going to a race. Downtown Indy is very close to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Indianapolis Motor Speedway is one of the most built up racetracks in the world. That would be my personal recommendation as someone who has been to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway a bunch and has been to Road Atlanta. IMS is going to be a lot more comfortable for you to attend a race. Plus, that race is shorter.
Yeah. Also, speaking from experience of last year going to Petite, and somebody who stayed in Atlanta because it was a very last minute decision for me to go, if you're thinking of going to Petite and you're thinking, oh, I'll just stay in Atlanta and do that hour drive each time, the day of the race when I tried driving over, it was over like 2 hours of a drive for me, and finding parking was insane. And that was even just for like free parking because parking was sold out. So that's another thing to consider is like if you're thinking, oh, I can stay in Atlanta and the drive's going to be easy, it is not an easy drive either.
Yeah, and a lot of it is 2-lane backcountry roads. So if there's some reason a road is closed, there's not really alternative routes, or there are alternative routes that are going to make a 1-hour drive into a 2-hour drive. So I mean, Petit Le Mans is a phenomenal race. But just know what you're getting into if you want to go to that race. It's a lot of fun, but it is a lot of effort too.
Well, and well, Nick already said that if you are up there in the USA and you're not actually going to the race, but you want to watch it on your TV or on a screen somewhere, you can find it on Peacock, and some races you can find it on NBC. But if you are like me and you live a bit far away in another hemisphere, for example, well, it's way easier for you because it's free and available on YouTube. So qualifying and the race. So how's that for access? So if you find yourself with a bit of time and you are able to catch either the quali or the full race or bits of the race, well, give it a try. And don't blame me though if you're addicted afterwards.
And if you don't have Peacock, that's what VPNs are for, because even if you're in the US, you don't need to be in the US. So YouTube has the races for most of the rest of the world. So if you have a VPN, just go somewhere else.
Yeah, to casually teleport. Now I'm in the US, now I am not.
I mean, there's a bunch of series. Once everybody's all caught up on IMSA, we can start introducing you to other sports car racing series. And a lot of those you will have to teleport for.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's not refer it to as VPN anymore. Let's just refer to it as teleporting, because that's cooler.
Yes.
The last thing that I want to have happen is people attend Petit Le Mans and be like, this was a terrible experience, I hate sports car racing, and tell everybody, like a lot of F1 fans that are potentially attending Petit have high view TikToks, high view Instagrams. The last thing I want to see is, sports car racing is awful.
Yeah. In line with like Petit not being a great like first time track, I also next year if you're thinking of Sebring as your first track, like your first experience for IMSA, wouldn't recommend. If Petit you think is in the middle of nowhere, Sebring is truly in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
Are there even hotels that you can stay at?
There are, but they're not like close. Like it's still going to be a 30+ minute drive if you're staying at a hotel. Like your option is camping, and that's it. Really, like if you are not wanting to have to do a pretty long drive each time.
And honestly, Petit's like that. I mean, like when we went to eat in like proper Brazelton, that was a 25-minute drive.
Yeah, but it's even like I would say in my opinion, like Sebring, it's even more out there to like try to find food or anything like that, or even like for your car, like trying to find gas. So my experience of going to Sebring is I would not recommend it as a first time. Same line as Petit, facilities there are not like as grand as you would expect them to be. The food is very like limited. Like most of your seating options are going to be sitting on like the grass. So if that's not what you want either, like probably not a good first race to go to.
That's something that I didn't bring up about Petit. There is one little set of stands, and it's at the start-finish line, but you can't really see all of the pits, you can't really see any turns. It's not a great place to sit. The best places to sit at Road Atlanta are on the sides of hills, in the dirt, in the grass. There's a terrace, but you're sitting on dirt on this terrace. Like, so honestly, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is the way to go. If you can swing the, what, 4-week turnaround from now until Battle on the Bricks, do it, because that will be an amazing experience, honestly. Like, I've never had a bad experience at IMS, and I've been to that track, over half a dozen times.
Well, let me add that to my adding that to my notes. Cross off Road Atlanta and see.
I would say they are great tracks to go to if you are an experienced fan, but as your first time, it's not something I would recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have plenty of experience going to races.
Hey, you never know.
You have a lot of experience watching races,
Yes.
though, Aries. You
Yeah.
stay up for 24 hours, 3 weeks in a row in June.
Yeah.
I do, and I would do it all over again.
Yeah, I would too. But if you tuned in specifically to hear our little intro to IMSA, that is the end of our little intro to IMSA. We do hope that you stick around for the rest of our nonsense, where we continue to talk about sports cars.
Yes.
Wow, who knew?
I feel like next thing is perfect example of just like peak nonsense. Welcome back to my favorite thing I like to talk about, the Sprite versus Coke battle of sports car drivers. Are they a Coke fan or are they a Sprite fan? Today's update is that Ranger Van de Zande is in fact a Coke fan, specifically at least when it comes to cycling, which from what I've realized through my analysis of Sprite versus Coke after bike ride, very high.
Yeah, it's very surprising to see these guys be like, I just went on a 100-kilometer ride and now I'm chugging a Coca-Cola.
Yes.
Cool.
But that's what I've noticed. Like, there are
Yes.
parallels here, and that is one of them. That is all I have for your update. Nobody else seemed to want to add to if they like Sprite or Coke.
And if you want the backstory to the soda thing, the episode The Secret to Being Mr. 24 Hours does, in fact, that's also a Daytona episode from this year. It goes into the origin of this soda thing.
Yes, it's very important
because the secret is Sprite.
The secret is Sprite, and unfortunately my Sprite can is packed away right now, or else I would have it. But that's your hint.
There's only one Mr. 24 Hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
True. But that's another hint in case you weren't somehow getting it.
Someone missed it by 14 seconds this year. Sorry,
Yeah.
Larry.
Sorry, Larry. But back to Petite. Wayne Taylor announced their, I guess, new Petite lineups. Will Stevens still has his seat, but Alex Lynn no longer has his seat, and it's now Norman Nato. Alex Lynn missed his Daytona chance because he was sick and then wasn't at Sebring. Was assumed he still had his seat for Petite, but it seems he no longer does.
Yeah, I do wonder if it is a bit of a ripple effect from that, because honestly, he's still a Cadillac factory driver, so one would assume he would be in.
Pole winner at Le Mans in a Cadillac. Like,
Right?
not a bad Cadillac driver.
Right?
Really actually should have had the fastest time last year. In qualifying at Le Mans too, because, someone and their track limits.
Oh,
Sorry,
dear.
Kevin.
Oh dear.
Come on, that was set up perfectly.
It was.
But no, the man is rapid in a Cadillac. So
I'm saying...
it doesn't make sense to me. And, like...
No.
Has he done Petite before?
But then Norman hasn't, so... You can't even use that as, like, a possibility. I'm just saying, for me personally, as somebody who likes Norman and Alex, if I was picking between the two, I would want the guy who got a car on pole at Le Mans in my car, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a fan of Norman, I guess Alex would be a bit of a better pick.
I do think they're both really good picks.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am more of a fan of Alex than Norman. That's not to say I don't like Norman, but I do like Alex.
Yeah. I will say my bias is definitely involved in this.
I mean, they kind of won my home race, so whoopee.
Yeah, they did
Yes,
kind of win
they
your
did.
home race.
So,
They collectively,
yeah, as
like
a collective.
all three of these drivers that we're discussing, Norman Nato, Alex Lynn, and Will Stevens, won your home race.
Yes, that was very satisfying. Well, and we pretty much just said something about spending 3 consecutive weekends without sleep in June. In September, it's not going to be 3 consecutive weekends, but we do have a pretty interesting event coming up on the 14th of September for most people. For most people, for me, it will be the 14th when it starts. For you, it won't. The Suzuka 1000 kilometers. It's going to start at 50 past midnight for me. So, what is sleep, guys? But yes, the entry list essentially came out today. 33 cars, and it's quite the spicy entry list. I had my doubts about watching it before.
It's so good.
It's very good. It's very, very good. If you think sleep is unimportant, well, screw that. Watch this race instead.
I've got to say, Porsche knocked it out of the park with the retro liveries they announced. I love the fact that there is a Pink Pig 911 for the first time since 2018, and it's not being driven by two of the drivers that won in 2018.
It's my favorite.
They're in a different car.
It's my favorite thing. I love it so much.
I want to know how Kevin and Larry feel about that.
I want to ask them.
No, let's just ask them. Kevin and Larry, how do you feel about racing against a throwback to your own Le Mans class-winning car? Like, technically, it's not a throwback to the 2018, but it basically is. How do you guys feel about that? Yeah.
A throwback to the throwback. It's a throwback inception.
Yeah.
Throwbackception.
Yes, exactly. But if you know me, you will know I have a very soft spot for anything that's remotely retro. So imagine my surprise when I saw not only we're going to have Pink Pig, but also we're going to have the Yoast racing scheme that they used back in the Group C days, the black and yellow.
That's the one
7.
Kevin and Larry are going to be in.
Yes, it's going to be the 7
and Patrick Pilet.
Yeah, who is not a slouch. So just
no, he's not.
Yeah.
See, if I went to this race, I could get him to sign my poster. But Travis doesn't want to go to Japan next month. So, in fact, I'm going to have to wait and go to Europe some other time and find him when he's racing in some series in Europe. Yeah.
Yeah.
This would be such a good time I could get him and Larry to sign my poster. Actually, no, Larry will have already signed my poster because this is after Coda.
Yes.
My poster, by the way, if you've stuck around, is my Nick Tandy, Mr. 24 Hours poster.
The one we hinted at for Sprite.
I want to get all of the drivers from all of the cars to sign it, because I think that would be really cool.
She's on a mission.
I've got the opportunity to, I will be at a race where all but one of these drivers is racing, and that is Patrick Pile. So I would love to go to Japan so that I can get him to sign my poster. My husband does not want me to go to Japan.
Yeah. Well, I will say we also have to include the fact that the 6 Porsche is also a throwback to the Shizuka winner from the 80s. And it's pink. So if you like pink cars, you've got the 6.
Yeah.
You also have the 23.
And the
Pink.
23, but you have another option for you.
But is it pink? Do the hex codes support that theory?
So it's pink, it's just not the style of pink that Dana likes. Dana never argues that Pink Pig isn't pink. Dana argues that it's not the bright Auto Nation style pink that she likes.
Oh, of course not. I just
May
needed
it be
to bring this
missed.
back.
Yes.
Yes. I will also say Mercedes announced their liveries, and they're bringing back my favorite one from Bathurst 12, which is like, it looks like the error that you get on a TV screen. I think that one's
Such a
pretty,
cool livery.
pretty
I love
cool
that
too.
one.
Yeah, so that's coming back again. So I'm excited for that. Mercedes for me is competing with Porsche for like favorite lineups too. So I have a battle in my hands.
And then the 6th round of the NLS was this weekend. Friend of the show, Klaus Backler, won along with his teammate Sven Muller. So congratulations to them. And see you at Petite, Klaus. Completely moving on from sports cars to now Formula One. Cadillac seems to be narrowing down their options for their Formula One team. And we thought it'd be fun to just kind of discuss who we want to see there, who we don't want to see there, who it makes sense for them to sign. Checo Perez and Valtteri Bottas make sense. Like, that is the most logical lineup. They aren't exciting in that they're both older, experienced drivers. I think everyone wants to see a young guy get his first shot there. But they are race-winning drivers who have been on championship-winning teams. So they make sense to sign, at least for a year or two.
Yeah. It's a very... People will think, at least I will think, of that lineup as being, to put it simply, boring. Because it's a pair of just, it's a very sort of bread and butter driver pairing, people who know how to get the job done. It's also, the irony of this is not lost in me because they were both sort of the number 2 drivers when they were in the championship winning teams, and now they've been paired up to sort of lead this new team that's coming up and help develop the car. I think it's if they go with Valtteri and Sergio, I think it's gonna be a very it's gonna be very, very stable way of building up the foundation for car development.
It's just the obvious, I feel like, choice.
Yeah, and I mean, it will be very marketable. Checo Perez is one of the most marketable drivers. And, people in Europe maybe don't realize that, but as someone who goes to the Circuit of the Americas Formula One race every year, he is massive there. Like, absolutely massive. I would comfortably say 1/3 of all the people at COTA have been Checo Perez fans. Even with the Mexico race existing, people still go to COTA to support him when he was driving. So, like, he is a hugely marketable driver. He also brings a huge amount of sponsorship money. And then Valtteri Bottas is also a massively marketable driver.
Yeah.
They make sense, but they're not, either of them as one of the team members makes sense to me. Having both of them, I don't like it. I would rather personally, I'd rather see Fred Vesti in that seat, with either Perez or Bottas. I just think that he's got a lot of experience being a Mercedes development guy. He does so much. If you follow him on Instagram, like every race weekend, they lock him in the sim and he does real-time setup adjustments for them. So, that's my personal pick. He also is racing with Cadillac in IMSA, so he has that tie to Cadillac already. And then one rumor that I've seen starting to float around is Mick Schumacher, who is currently an Alpine driver in WEC, potentially replacing Jenson Button at Joda Cadillac, because Jenson has announced his retirement at the end of the season. So he could go to become a factory Cadillac driver, be racing in WEC for Joda, but also be the Formula One reserve. I would like to point out that we tweeted that idea, put it in the notes and everything prior to all the news articles coming out about this. So we were ahead of the curve. We start writing these notes like the day after we record, so we came up with this idea last Tuesday, and all of these articles about it came out on like Wednesday and Thursday. So we were ahead of the curve on this Joda / F1 idea.
Yeah. It's
Predicting
also
trends.
Yeah, it's also not something that he hasn't done before, of being like with Mercedes as a reserve while having a WEC seat. No longer his case, but was previously. And then it's not like you don't have that across the grid for other guys, like we talked about with Fred being a Mercedes reserve right now and driving with Cadillac. So it's not crazy to think of as a possibility.
Well,
Yeah, I do think that they need to stick with someone who has some sort of Formula One experience, whether that is, just being a reserve driver for a team like Fred, or having raced full seasons in F1 like Mick, also potentially someone like a Yuki Tsunoda. A Checo Perez Yuki Tsunoda pairing would be really interesting because they both bring that Red Bull mentality over, and
yeah,
if that's something that Cadillac want to emulate, having two drivers from one system makes a lot of sense to me.
true. Well, I'm not going to entertain those rumors, but there is a bit of an unhinged side of F1 Twitter that comes from where I am. There is another guy who's been driving for Cadillac in sports cars that is also a reserve driver for a big F1 team, but Felipe Dragovich, you know him. But everybody seems to think, at least here, everybody seems to think that just because every now and again a picture of him surfaces with him wearing a sort of Cadillac hat, people think, oh, he's connected to the F1 team. No, he's connected to
He's a
Action Express
Cadillac
Racing.
driver.
Like, it gets on
That's
my nerves.
hilarious.
It gets
I
on
mean,
my
I
nerves.
get it though. Like, people want to support the hometown guy. They want to be you that wrap your Brazilian flag around your shoulders every time we talk about your nation.
True.
Should understand your countrymen wanting to see a fellow Brazilian in a Formula One seat. I mean, I am not personally a big fan of Dragovich, but I mean, he has put in a lot of time and a lot of commitment saying, I want to be an F1 driver.
Yeah.
He has very similar, the same reasons why we think that Fred Vesti would be a good option. Those same, objectively, those same reasons would apply to Felipe.
True.
He's
Yeah.
he's a reserve driver for a team. He's, done FP sessions. He's done a lot of work in Formula 1.
And he's also the irony of Vesti and Dragovic driving for the same team is also not lost on me.
Yeah, they are both Action Express boys. So
Yes. If anybody from sports cars, in any level, whether it's Vesti or whether it's Dragovic, do go, or Mick, go to Cadillac, that will definitely send shockwaves through sports cars as far as who's going to replace those guys. Because, I mean, I think a lot of drivers would jump at the opportunity to start a Formula One team, right? Like,
yeah,
you've got, your Alex Palou's out there saying, why would I want to give up being, back champion in IndyCar to go hope to score points? But if you're a guy who, like, especially for Vesti and Dragovic, don't have full-time every weekend drives. The basis of what they do is being a Formula One reserve driver, right? Like, I think they would absolutely jump on that. Mick Schumacher has said his only goal is to get back to Formula One. He is in sports cars because that's the only option he has. So I think he's also, a good option.
Yeah. I guess we need to. I guess it's a matter of playing the waiting game, seeing how they're actually gonna work this out. But I think Caddy, as an F1 team, has a chance to I don't know. They can go the boring stable way, or they can sort of be bold with their driver choices. Well, as I said, we still have a few weeks maybe until we know. So
Do you think they're going to announce it at COTA, or do you think they're going to announce it at Vegas?
that's if they want to go for the bling and make a yes, I'm here. I'm your new American team. I think Vegas, but COTA wouldn't be too bad to do it at COTA. I think. I just think it could be a bit early though.
I think they're going to do it at one of those two races. I agree with you. I think they're going to go for the glitz and the glamour and the massive launch party that makes more sense for Vegas.
Yeah. They could surprise us, though. You never know.
Going to announce it at Abu Dhabi, guys.
Yep. Actually, they're just going to announce it on some random Tuesday.
We're gonna wake up and the news are gonna be there.
Yeah, it's going to be like when Lewis to Ferrari got announced. We're just going to wake up and it's going to be announced.
That day, goodness.
That day was crazy.
And on that bombshell, thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Orange Flag Pod. On Twitter, Nicole is at Nicole on Racing, Austin is at Henry Claren, and Aries is at Aries_Alpenglow. Stay orange.